Hello, everyone, and welcome to the end of the first season of Sights on Sinnoh here as we wrap up Season 1, technically Season 10 of the anime, Diamond and Pearl. And for this very special episode, we actually have all our co-hosts here to kind of go over and review our thoughts on the season so far. So just checking in, how are you guys doing so far?
Yeah, so this was the first Pokemon anime that I have watched beginning to end for Pokemon anime season. So it was fun to see the arcs of these characters that I have heard the names tossed around of for years and finally actually see it play out. So that was nice.
I'm doing good as well. And to my surprise, I was actually able to tolerate the voice actors that as a kid caused me to stop watching the anime. So that's a plus, I guess. That's a victory for the anime.
Yeah.
But you were watching in English and Japanese, correct?
Yes.
And which one was better then?
Oh, definitely Japanese. Japanese is the reason I got back into XY.
Interesting, and we'll get to that take a little later on. But good question coming out from Brady there. And then Brady and Greg, how are you guys feeling so far in getting through this first season of Diamond and Pearl?
Doing well. There was a few episodes I'd say that kind of drug on, but other than that, I think the season went pretty well.
I'm a real honest. I did not watch every episode of this anime. I'm not sitting through it again. I did it once.
That's fair.
I'm not gonna go through some of those filler things unless you made me.
You can only hear the Diamond and Pearl anime intro song so many times before you lose it.
Skipped every time. Skip the intro, please. Please skip your bad rap.
Nothing can stop Greg. Diamond
It's all
and Pearl.
it's all about the challenges.
Yeah.
It's all about the challenges of getting through this theme song.
And JM, how about you?
I'm feeling pretty good. Not my favorite season. I think I liked a lot of the setup that we got, and it makes me look forward to the rest of the Diamond and Pearl series. But I do agree there's a lot of filler in this season that honestly I also could have just done without.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's a look at our kind of first impressions of the season from everyone here. And then we're going to go down the line just in order of appearance for people that joined the podcast here as co-hosts. So we'll be going down Carissa, Mannie,
Carina.
Sorry.
A new co-host.
It's been a long day, okay? Look, I'm giving you another alias. Just go with it. No, but it'll be Carina, Mannie, Brady, Greg, and JM, each taking turns answering a few questions I have here. And the first one is, what surprised you the most about this season? Carina, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so I was just saying before we started recording that this was the question that I had the most trouble kind of trying to think of a thing, because maybe somebody will listen back to things I said and prove me wrong, but I don't really remember there being like a big thing that happened this season where I was like, whoa, I did not see that coming. That was like a moment of proper surprise. If anything, I feel like in hindsight, maybe like the absence of some things were maybe surprising. Like, I don't know, maybe this is just my naivete from not having watched Pokemon anime before, but I always thought that like Team Rocket would have a grander plan than just like showing up randomly and like having some half a bleeped attempt to like steal a Pokemon and then like really easily getting blasted off. So I had grander expectations for Team Rocket. So that was one thing. And then I guess maybe another thing that I don't know if surprise is the right word. Well, yeah, surprise. But I feel like there's a theme of like Pokemon borrowing throughout the season. From like the episode where we had Pikachu being Sugar to like Apom, like Zoe suggesting that Dawn borrow Apom and like Jessie borrowing Carnivine, I think it was, for contests, which I know that I did talk a little bit about on previous episodes on the show, but that I think was maybe unexpected for me. So that's what I came up with for this question.
Nice, okay. Mannie?
For me, I would probably say number one, the main difference between both the English and the Japanese version. How I spoke about how in the Japanese they make it like super obvious that Dawn is the main character of this entire story, and remembering as a kid, it didn't really feel that way. Me watching it in English and watching the first episode in Japanese and just seeing like the main focus, I think that was definitely a big surprise because I knew she was a bit of a very popular character, but as a kid for me, she was kind of annoying. So just finding out that in the main difference that kind of don't make it as obvious in the English version as they do in the Japanese version, and then also I think how much of the music from like the games and movies that they put into the series that JM pointed out as well. I was hearing the episodes. That was definitely a big surprise for me as well. Just hearing that they added music from movies and from the games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's something I also discovered along the way, just reading the Bubblepedia pages as well.
Oh, and also finding out that Rourke is Leon. in Journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was definitely a big one as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise for me was the episode where Gary came back on, and he had like his pretty strong Pokemon. Like he had a Blastoise, he had an Umbreon. I don't remember what else, but they were all like evolved Pokemon, well trained, and you could really tell that he was a serious trainer at least at one point. And then you look at Ash, and it's like every single season, or I guess region, he starts over and he loses all of his experience. And so it was very weird for me to see that they had a character that they like kept all that experience from and brought it back into the anime versus the main characters that we see that have a brand new start every region.
I really thought the whole Chimchar going to Ash thing happened a heck of a lot earlier than it did.
Yeah.
Why? Why was this season 51 episodes when only 20 things happened in it?
Oh, we'll get to that in a second, but
I mean, I forgot how
Mhm.
long they dragged everything out.
Hmm.
It just felt like, okay, it's like, I know you have time to fill, but I think we got to like the third city in the game by the end of this thing.
Greg, you didn't even watch the whole season again.
I know. I remember it from the first time, and I'm like, oh boy. I watched the last 3 episodes. I'm like, it happens now?
Yeah.
Not until now? This is episode 51.
Yes. For our dear listeners, you know that we had complaints about the last 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did.
And JM, your take on the last question.
The first of all, like a single moment that surprised me was, I will always bring this up, the fact that they used the Reggie boss battle music for a Team Rocket battle. Really bothered me. But the biggest surprise, like thematically, and this goes back to when I watched this season as a middle school age kid, was the fact that Dawn was way more fleshed out than I remembered her. Like I remember watching this in advance, the Hoenn anime, and just really feeling like Dawn was just a copy paste of May, exact same. Like this is the girl trainer who does the contests, and this is all there is to her. And it really surprised me that there was a lot more to Dawn than just that. And that she was very driven, she was very goal oriented, and a capable trainer aside from just a coordinator. So very pleasant surprise there.
Nice, that's good. Yeah. And to kind of cover some events now that people have started to touch on those a bit, this is a list of some of the things that happen and are listed as important events according to Bulbapedia for this season. Starting off with Dawn is introduced as new trainer. Ash arrives in Sinnoh. Brock rejoins Ash. Ash meets his new rival Paul. Ash, Brock, and Dawn all decide to travel together. Dawn's first battle is with Nando, and after that battle, Nando decides to collect both badges and ribbons. Dawn acquires a Poketch in Jubilife. She also meets her first rival, Zoe. They encounter all the friends with Ash encounter Hunter J. Jesse borrows Ash's Apom and defeats Dawn in an unofficial Pokemon contest. At the Floroma contest, Dawn runs into Kenny, a childhood friend who's also joining as a coordinator, and she beats him for her first ribbon. Ash and his friends assist Cheryl in the Eterna Forest as they search for the sweet honey, and during the search they run into Gardenia, the lover of grass-type Pokemon, and the Eterna City gym leader. Ash, Dawn, Brock, Jesse, and James all enter the Pokemon dress-up contest, where Brock wins and receives a Pokemon egg. Dawn battles the Elite Four member Lucian, quote-unquote battle, we could get to that. Ash and his friends prevent the theft of the Adamant Orb, which is unbeknownst to them, orchestrated by Team Galactic. Paul battles the Sinnoh League champion Cynthia, but with the group watching. Ash helps Gary protect some Wild Shieldon from Hunter J. Ash and his friends meet Mira and help her rescue Sandshrews Pokeball from a flooded town. Dawn, Zoe, Nando, and Jesse compete in the Heart Home contest, where Dawn loses in the first round. And then her rivals advance to the battle stage, where Nando wins the contest. Then the biggest arc, Harlem City Tag Battle, takes place. This is where we meet Conway Holly, and then Ash and Paul are the winners of this arc. So, a lot of things there. Did any of those trigger someone's memory of something else that they didn't realize happened this season?
You forgot Giraffe cosplaying as Suicune.
Oh yeah. The
Wait,
most important
what?
moment of this season.
The most important moment of the season when Giraffe cosplayed as Suicune
okay.
during the Nurse Joy episode.
Speaking of Suicune, Suicune also randomly appears in this season, and
Now that I forgot about.
yeah, which we'll get to with Mannie actually. But going down the line again for everyone, what was your biggest critique of this season, Carina?
I think my biggest critique is kind of a vague one, but just that like a lot of things just like happened that made no sense. Like I remember there were a lot of moments where we were like going through the recap, and then I was like, and then this just like happened, and I don't know why, and I don't know how we got here, but like here we are, and we just never revisited again. So I think that I don't know if that's just like a thing with Pokemon or with like I don't know, children's shows. It's just you just don't ask questions. But I found myself at many points just being utterly lost as to how we got to where we were in an episode.
For me, I think it was probably the cold opens more than anything. 'Cause there was always just like that confusion and that timing of how it felt like was just not needed.
It's a close second for me. I echo that. I did not like
it's
those.
just every time you start an episode, you're like, wait, did I miss something? Like, am I supposed to go back or like, you're just left confused. And yeah, so for me, I think there's probably more, but it's the first thing that comes to my mind. Probably the cold opens.
Those actually did start on episode 8. So I think for Mannie, after Mannie's first episode with Carina, that's where like they just came back for the rest of the season, where Brock catches Krogan. It's in that episode that they just decide to keep him going. So interesting to hear what everyone else's thoughts on them as well. But I think we've got a common consensus of how people feel about that for sure. And Brady.
Well, I guess I gotta change my answer.
You can reaffirm.
Yeah.
Oh, but
Well,
a correction.
yeah.
It was on the episode where Dawn catches Banuri. That's the first time.
On that one. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think besides the cold openings, which should have never existed, I think my biggest critique of this season, I'm not sure if it's necessarily this season or just the entire Pokemon anime, like every season, but just how forgetful characters are, which makes me feel like
Yeah.
maybe the writing team is forgetful, but I'm not sure if that necessarily correlates. But just for example, I feel like Ash is pretty experienced as a battler, but he makes some really dumb mistakes. And I've heard some people say like, "Oh, you still make mistakes in battle," but he like just flat out doesn't understand sometimes. Um, I think another thing is like how often they encounter Team Rocket and not know it's Team Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I think that just kind of bothers me. And trying to think, there was one other example I had in my mind of them being forgetful. Oh, Team Rocket not prepping properly for catching Pikachu. There are some episodes where everything's like insulated and it seems pretty foolproof. And then there's other episodes where it's like, have you tried to catch this Pikachu before? Because you did everything wrong and it could escape easily.
Yeah,
Kind of on that second to last point, do they still think that Jesselina is a person? Have they not put that together yet?
I don't think they have, because
No.
this also happens
No.
in Kalos with
Yeah.
a very similar name, and they don't catch on there either.
yeah.
Well, that's nice.
I mean, it's a conceit of kids episodes, right? Like it's
Mhm.
meant to make the kids yell at the screen and be like, "Oh, we're smarter than the people on the TV." Like it's a conceit that happens a lot in children's television.
That's fair.
And Greg, did you have a specific critique for the season?
The pacing of the season was awful.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the important events, like the first 4 happened in the first 3 episodes. And then there's like a gap between like episode 4 and episode 10. Nothing interesting happens. Episode
Mhm.
11 to episode 20. Nothing important happens. They really. It's fine to have filler episodes if they're spaced out, but to
Yeah.
sit through 9 chunks of episodes that ultimately are just, here's the Pokemon we want you to remember. This will have no bearing on anything. It's just unforgivable on some level to not care. I think it comes across as they just did not care. They know they had a commitment to fill, and they just filled it however they could. I think the writing, the animation style, a lot of what went into this into this season is what a lot of people complain about the anime not being good. Because they really didn't do anything, and the stuff that they did do was very few and far between.
I could definitely see a lot of the planning that I did with trying to record things that were eventful and having that spaced out among all the recordings as a challenge for sure. And I do think a good amount of episodes at some point was me and the partner that I was on recording it for being like, well, this happened, but like you don't really need to watch like a lot of the episode to get this. And then in other cases, like the museum episode that I did with JM, where like this episode could be 2 parts. Like there's just so much that happens in here.
Right.
So it's a very interesting balance there. And JM, did you have any thoughts on critiques for the season?
Yeah. First, I completely agree with Greg there on the pacing. That's not my actual critique, though. But I will say, when you read the list of events, you didn't include the party changes and evolutions,
Yes.
which did sort of fill those gaps, but still not a
Mhm.
lot.
Right.
and-
The list
and
is
even then-
surprisingly small for like the amount of Pokemon that actually do join the party.
Right, and even then, they're all bunched up together. Like the only 2 evolutions for the
Mhm.
main party in the season are back to back. And I
Exactly.
covered them. But no, my biggest critique, which I'm not going to subject you guys to again, is Paul. I'm not going to hurt you guys like that.
I have a lot to say about Paul.
Oh, I did too. um, but no, my other big critique, and maybe this is just comparing it to Kalos onwards, because that's what I'm most familiar with in terms of the anime. I could not stand Team Rocket this season. I don't know. They were like more incompetent than I was used to. They were like more grating, and it just felt like so many of the episodes could have gone 100% fine without them even showing up. Like I feel like they were just inserted in every single episode for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah,
And
I mean, they did this a lot in these sort of this era where it was like we have to hit the tropes, and they're a trope, and everybody expects them to show up whether they should be there or not. And they don't really fix it until X and Y.
right.
When they actually become competent and they have something to do, and they are doing things on their own. In this season, in this era, they're just like, shove them in.
Right. And in X and Y, the writers learned to not use them as much. Like there's plenty of episodes that don't feature them. So when they show up, it's a little more tolerable.
Yeah, I definitely remember Team Rocket being better, and this might be more of me remembering the later seasons of this era. But it was a lot of the times just trying to like find the loosest piece of connection between Team Rocket and the main plot of the show, which will lead them to being like a B, C plot or even lower. So I think it was refreshing when we got to see them do things that weren't just going for Pikachu and like having our heroes stumble upon them, but there were so many times where it was just like, and this is the cue for Team Rocket that we have to mandatorily like drop into this script here sometimes.
Yeah, and even with episodes that had other enemies like Hunter J, like give like as much as I don't like Hunter J either, give her her own episode and don't involve Team Rocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. And I know Hunter J was a favorite for some people here as well. So we might talk about this a bit more for this next question, which is, which episode was your favorite? Starting again from Carina.
Mine has got to be the one with the dress up contest where all the Pokemon were dressed up as other Pokemon. I really enjoyed that. With a close second being the one where they're like on the ship and we get a few shots of Piplup dressed up as a magician, and I still scream thinking about that. That was real good. It was real cute. But yeah, I think the dress up episode was my favorite overall.
Nice. Yeah, I know Greg has some thoughts about that episode, but I did also enjoy all the cute moments like that.
The let's just story a ship with no repercussions episode? Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's cause millions of dollars of property damage and just leave. Okay, bye.
It's fine. We got Piplup as a magician out of it.
Yeah.
Totally worth it.
Completely. He magicked away the damages with his
Sure.
There we go.
newfound ability.
he cast a
Buchanan.
forget spell on the old man.
Manny.
I'd have to say Dawn's Early Night is probably my favorite episode. Just for the fact that it wasn't a happy or campy episode, and it was more of like seeing the characters in a different light, kind of more vulnerable. And I think what the anime for me, watching it this time around, was I was heavily invested in Dawn as a character, and seeing her struggle towards the end. And I think, Will, you said it, that they were trying to cheer her up, and she said, "Well, then why didn't I win?" And when she says that line, like, it kind of tugs at your heart. And I like that the anime was able to do that for me in terms of this character. Well, in terms of like a personal, I guess, connection towards the character, Dawn's Early Night is my favorite episode.
Yeah, that's definitely a high one on my list as well. I think like it's very impressive to see how far this character has come. because I think a lot of people in the beginning, and I could totally see this perception, was like, Dawn has no personality. And
Mhm.
by this time, we really see that fleshed out
Mhm.
in a better sense of it. Brady.
So I'd say that mine is probably the one with Gary returning. Very
Oh,
similar to
okay.
my first question here. A lot of that is probably just nostalgia, just seeing, because I was probably around like 8 or 9 when Red and Blue came out, when the anime first came out, and obviously, like every 8 or 9 year old, I was obsessed. And then I dropped off and stopped watching the animes, and then eventually stopped playing the games and stuff. But seeing now that they would bring back characters from like the first season, and just the way that they've like shown growth in that character alone, um is very weird, because it was like it's the same character but it's not the same character in the personality, because they were like a lot more mature. And I think like
Mhm.
as an adult watching that, I could see like the benefits of Gary, whereas like when I was a kid, I didn't like Gary because he was kind of just a jerk.
Okay, so you got to see a new side of the character.
Yeah, I think so. And that nostalgia hitting.
Yeah, I've kind of heard through social media of different characters, including Gary, I think, returning to Journeys for some special episodes. And I'm very curious to see how they compare in terms of the presentation that we see here with characters coming back or a lot of references to some historical members of the anime.
I
Greg?
will say
Hmm?
I enjoyed that specific return in Journeys since I watched the sub.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, he definitely comes out across the way Brady would likes him as a character right now.
Oh, good. That's
Cool,
exciting.
cool. Yeah, glad to hear that consistency there. Greg?
Oh boy. Um, I'm going to go with the Cynthia episode. The what's it
Her
called?
debut in Amity Square.
Yeah,
And
top-down training.
Mhm.
yes.
Before they absolutely destroy Paul's character. When there's still a little bit of hope that Paul's a jerk, but like maybe a redeemable jerk. And they do a lot of good character stuff with Cynthia. And there's like it's just a nice story that does a lot for all the characters. Unfortunately, the last 3 episodes they just light Paul on fire.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Send
we've
them
been
off.
over it. We
Yeah.
have
Send
been
them
over
off
it.
into the sunset. But in that episode, we all were like, "Oh, okay, maybe, just maybe."
As JM and Kurdo said, we definitely have a full episode that if you guys want to listen to, check out. I think it's episode 30 of
You want to
Nights of
hear
Sinnoh.
me and JM scream at will over how much we hate Paul.
Greg, you would have loved it. It was
Oh, I
more
should
than
have been
half
there.
of the episode was just discussing Paul
Yeah.
and how inconsistently he's written.
It,
And we'll get to that. Hold
I
up, because
can't
no, that's going to
even.
come out on the
it's
next
gonna
question.
it's gonna come out with the recurring characters. It's gotta.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point, Greg, that during that episode he did feel redeemable.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And there was like this side of me is like, man, I really don't like him at this point, but I'm cheering for him to be good. Like I want to see something good happen, and I want to see like a
Well,
nice arc.
They
Um,
give him reasons to do what he's doing
Mhm.
slightly. Like you don't have to agree with his training methods, but he at least seems like I care to get the best out of these Pokemon, and
Goes away.
Yeah.
then it goes away.
Yep.
And JM, what was your favorite episode?
One of mine was also the one that Greg said for the exact same reasons because I had such high hopes. But I also liked, and you can see a theme with the episodes I choose. I like the combo, the back to back with Kenny and Dawn's performance and getting her first big win. Just these big character moments are always just so great to me. But being able to see Dawn get that first win, meeting a new character who I'm sure we're going to see again, like, it's pretty obvious that he's coming back. And doing so in a way that felt worthwhile. And like I said, when we recorded that one, it felt earned. It felt like Dawn has made progress. And it really does, going back to what Manny said, set up for her to lose at Hardhome. Because she's had that first victory. She knows she's capable. And then it just makes that hit at the end of the season so much more impactful for her.
Yeah, definitely. I guess for me, it's no secret that it's got to be the Suicune episode. No, I'm kidding. It's terrible. Do not watch that episode. I would say episode 36, A Secret Spear of Influence. I think that's right. Yeah, that's the one where we have the Adamant Orb in the Eterna City Museum. And as I mentioned before, it could have easily been like 10 minutes more because there's just so much in there. They don't even explain how they got there because they're already like cutting the first 10 minutes of setup to get right to the plot. And it just does so much to show a bit of each of the characters, set up some lore moving forward, randomly throws in a character that hasn't appeared in literally 500 episodes, which is the Officer Jenny from Viridian City, who's just in town visiting that day for some reason. We get Nando, we get Gardenia there as well, and like a implied like chemistry between them, like that I didn't even notice until JM pointed out to me. But I thought that was just such a cool episode and showing all these relationships coming together. And I really wish we had gotten more of that because I thought that was just an awesome peek to the plot, to the characters, and the progression of the story overall. And now for our fourth question, are there any recurring characters that stood out to you?
I really liked my boy Nacho. He was good. I liked him a lot.
Wait, Nacho?
I really like him. Whatever his name is, that's not
Nando!
Nacho. He's forever gonna be.
He's
so good.
hard.
I've called
And,
him
like-
Nacho ever since the episode we were on together.
Yeah. I really like that he like makes no sense, but in a good way. And I like that he is the kind of the only character that like doesn't fall for this false divide of like contest versus gyms. And he's like, I can do all of it. And he's like so chill. Like in that museum episode, is that the one where they like arrest him because they think he's the one? And
just
he's
straight
like
up gets
so
arrested.
chill about it. He's just like, it is not me. I am innocent, but also like doesn't try very hard and is just like chilled. I have a lot of love for Nacho.
Well, the SSN theme plays in the background, and I couldn't identify it.
Yes! For some reason, that's his theme.
That's his theme, is the SSN theme.
Yeah, very pure character that I think is a bit underrated in the grand scheme of Diamond and Pearl for sure. And Manny.
For me, in terms of the Japanese sub, it's definitely Paul. Like I said, he's not as edgy in the American version.
Sure, we'll go with edgy to describe him.
Yeah, I mean, come on, listen to the lines he says. It's very edgy and monotone. He doesn't come off as monotone. And JM made that comparison in the season finale episode of him and Zuko, where they kind of get that feel of character gonna be redeemed one day, and
One of them they pull it off, and the other one they don't.
yeah, he has like a tragic story. And though they kind of doing it in the English version, the Japanese version, like I said, it makes me want to know more about that character because he doesn't. He's still a jerk, but he feels more vulnerable. Like he's trying not to let anyone in or near him, and it just there's I don't know what it is, but there's something that just draws me to that version of him in the Japanese version.
Just to clarify, we were talking about Prince Zuko being compared to Paul.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
I
but
like.
I'm
yeah.
offended, and I don't know
No,
if I can
no,
continue this.
you gotta
I
listen to
don't
the
know
whole
the
episode.
context. Yeah, I will, but I don't know the context. But I don't even know how you could do that. My boy
Long
Zuko.
story short is they were both introduced as irredeemable enemies.
Yes.
And one of them, like they were both hinted at from very early on to have some level of depth to them. One of them, they successfully redeem him in a way that works very well and is impactful to everyone. And the other one, like Greg said, they burn it up completely.
I'm going to argue that they introduced Zuko as irredeemable.
Yeah.
They really introduced Zuko as redeemable through his uncle. Like that is the whole thing that makes Zuko interesting, is that he is emotionally damaged and his uncle is trying to get him there. And that's like from episode 1. They're like, this is a deep character. And for Paul, they give glimpses, and they're like, well, F that. We need a supervillain to make this season interesting.
Well, also there's like an innate tragedy to Zuko, and
that you don't have with Paul.
At least not yet, as far as we know, because again, there's 3 more seasons of this show.
Yeah, and for some reason, Ash really wants to see Paul's hometown of Veilstone City.
Well, no, he wants to challenge the gym, and it's just kind of thrown in there. Oh yeah, that Paul's
there. Paul's from there, so there's another reason to go.
The other reason is Glasses Dude's ultimate evil plan that he is.
Yeah.
Conway, the true villain of season 10.
I mean, his introduction is so creepy.
That's what I said.
Brady, did you say what character?
Yeah, we were deciding that we're going to become an Avatar podcast.
His favorite current character,
like
is Zuko.
right? That's
That'd
totally
be so
original.
Awesome. Anyway, so I'd say like I guess not a favorite, but a reoccurring character that stood out to me. I know someone said negative things about Hunter J earlier, but I actually liked the fact that they brought conflict on a level that was actually conflict instead of Team Rocket just kind of being a joke.
That's like an annoyance.
Especially the very first time you meet Hunter J. She and whatever organization she's a part of are scary.
Yeah. There's actual stakes with her, which is nice.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the part of it, is that there's a lot of mystery around her, where she's solo, like she is the organization in many ways.
Yeah, except for those underlings that she just, I guess, lets die off or whatever.
Nobody dies; they just faint.
Well,
they almost died, but then they teleported.
Nobody dies; they just faint. And it's the number 1 rule of the Pokemon world.
I guess trainers black out, or they change
black
out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
only Ash can die in the movies.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly.
It's true.
For 2 seconds.
And Greg?
I mean, Nando's the best character, so we're done. But since Nando's,
Glad we're agreed.
I honestly, Zoe is such a good character for Dawn.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Zoe is the rival that every trainer probably should have, like somebody who's actually looking out for you and wants to help you along, but also is like, I'm also not going to cut corners. Like, I'm gonna burn you to the ground, but I want you to be at your best when I do it. Like Zoe is just a welcome foil in sort of a sea of bland characters.
She is pretty level-headed, I'd say, and still not to the point where like you just like, oh, this character is done. Like, there's no development here, because you can already see like her tension come up with Ash and Nando. So it definitely adds a nice dynamic there. JM, did you have any thoughts on Zoe?
Yeah, actually, she was also at the top of my list. So I have Dawn's all three rivals really, because we're gonna see more of Kenny. I think all three of them have their purpose for Dawn: Zoe, Kenny, and Nando. Like Greg said, I love how Zoe set up as a rival. Every episode she's in, it feels necessary. Which, like, when Paul shows up with Ash, it doesn't feel necessary. Like, there's so
What are
many
you talking
times where
about?
it's
He needed to be there to catch that Furo in the maze.
That was vital information.
especially the maze episode where he just tells everyone to shut up and leave him alone, and has no purpose. He doesn't need to be in that episode.
I mean, even the weird things, like the weird things they do, help point out what a good character Zoe is. Like the fact that Zoe says, "Hey, Dawn should be in this tag team battle." I
Right.
think it would be good for her. Is a level of friendship / codependence a little bit that you don't see a lot, but like it helps inform what role Zoe does play for Dawn and how much better that makes Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was gonna say that Dawn's a good recurring character because she doesn't come back after these seasons are over, except for once in a blue moon. I always say that I was always surprised that people felt that Dawn and May were similar. I'm like,
that's how I remembered it as a kid, but seeing it now, they're way different.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, nah. I mean, they are very different people.
Yeah, and we'll actually get to compare their characters in the next season. So stick around for that.
Shadow.
Yeah.
Shadow.
Yeah, last thing I'll say about Zoe there is it's cool seeing how like she's at the edge of Dawn's mind still in a lot of what she does, and like understanding how she develops her style as a coordinator and how she treats her Pokemon in a both good and bad way, as we kind of see in the Dawn's Early Night episode, where she has a bit of overzealousness there that kind of blinds her a bit. And JM, did you say your character?
Yeah, it was the trio of Dawn's rivals.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but I do know where Kenny's headed, so that's kind of why I'm also there.
Got it. Okay,
since we've only seen him once so far.
Right. Yeah. He only had that 2-part episode. I think this character I was delighted to see was as great as I remember, because like I don't think they really have a lot of time or even lines in the game itself. And that would be Gardenia. She is so quirky and yet so competent as a gym leader. I was just delighted to see her like kind of naturally folded into the Cheryl episode, as it's like a 3-episode arc in Eternal Forest, and then later on at the museum, and just her like fluctuating aggressiveness and passion for grass type Pokemon as like they're battling Team Rocket in the forest, and she is just like enamored by them. And then Jessie pulls out some Viper, and her face just immediately changes to being like, well, okay, I thought we were having fun here, but I guess we have to like show you a thing or two. It's just amazing. And she's just like way more complex than she has any right to be, given like how much time we spend with her in the game itself. There's even like
she was a very fun character.
Yeah, and there's like a whole thing in the game actually about connecting her and Rotom a bit that we don't even see at all in the anime. So I would have loved to see her come back there in some way, or kind of use that opportunity later on. And as we've teased about before so far about the show going forward, I know some of you do know some events that happen in the future. But I think for the people, let's go down the line for people that don't know to start. So I think that first person would be Carina.
Yeah, I think we've determined that I am garbage at making predictions. So I don't know if I have predictions for the future, but something that I would like to see is, and I think they did a relatively good job of it in this season, but seeing like the development of some of the side characters and keeping them consistent as they develop and come back and interact with our characters, I'd like to see more of that.
Nice. Okay. And I think Manny, you've seen some of the show going forward already.
Yeah.
Okay. So Brady.
Right, and so this is just prediction.
No, just like what would you like to see going forward? Like, is there something
Okay.
you really liked or something that maybe you didn't see enough of?
Got it. I would like to see Chimchar show off in front of Paul, kind of like he did in the last battle, like episode 51. But in a way that Paul can't deny, like that he really screwed up.
Yeah, definitely.
So that'd be really good for me to see. I don't think there's going to be any other way that that Paul is going to emotionally be impacted by what Ash does outside of Chimchar. So I would love to see some trauma by Chimchar. Oh, I'd also like to see more abilities come into play during battles.
Okay.
Them
yeah.
pointing out the fact that Pokemon do have abilities, and maybe just some of the special nuances that you would understand if you played the video games, in the way that the moves work in those games, and just seeing them how they're animated.
Totally. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential that was hinted at in the Heart Home tag battles where the Rhydon and Magmar combo, which I thought was amazing. And just the battles in general, I think, are a huge highlight that are only going to get better from here. Going back down the list, then Manny.
Definitely more character growth and development for each character. More episodes that involve Brock as a trainer, not as a creep.
Yes.
Yeah, more aspects of him as a breeder and as a trainer, and I definitely want to know what happened to all those main Nectrix that get shipped to a supposed power plant that we never hear from again.
Oh, no.
So hopefully we get an update on them or whatnot, because
Real
I mean
cliffhanger of the season.
that's kind of suspicious that it's only one person shipping out a homeless of Manectric that never seen or heard from again.
Fair. Greg. Oh, actually, no, Brady. Oh, wait, no, yeah. Greg, it is Greg.
Jiminy!
Just testing you.
How is that a test? What I want for seeing them go, so what I want, and I know it doesn't happen. What I want is I want them to sort of pace things better. I really want more episodes that actually show the characters growing. I mean, and they do these things, like there are arcs to all of them. It's hard to say what you will see going forward when you remember what does and doesn't happen going forward. I think it. Dawn has a very good arc, and Chimchar has a very good arc at the expense of all other Pokemon.
I mean, I think they're definitely strong arcs that are going to be some of the big takeaways for people. But going at it in this like episode by episode approach, I think might highlight some of the more subtle arcs here, and I'm hoping those stand out more as we kind of see those compared to the bigger like season-wide arcs that we do see for Dawn and Chimchar specifically.
Yeah. So 3 things. The first, I'm interested in this Chimchar arc that was just mentioned. I am curious to see how specifically it affects Ash and Turtwig, seeing as it's pretty obvious that Chimchar is going to be the starter of Ash's team. Next, I know there's stuff with Buizel, and I'm very excited to see it actually happen.
Yep.
And then I just want Galactic. I just want Team Galactic. That's the third thing. I want someone other than Jesse and James to be causing problems.
Yeah, that's a good thing you mentioned right there. So for Greg, Manny, and JM, what do you guys think about Team Galactic's introduction here compared to well, actually, I think it's just Greg and JM. Team Galactic's introduction here compared to the games in terms of where it happens and when.
I personally think it's way better in the games.
Yeah, I have to remember what happens in the games.
Valley Windworks is when they're introduced. With
Oh,
that
right.
big Perugly that is impossible to take on.
Yeah.
Do you guys like? Would you have preferred it was a little closer to how the games executed that?
Well, I would have preferred that the Valley Windworks episode was closer to that.
Yeah.
Between that and the Suicunes.
I mean,
Oh my god.
The problem with this first season is the villain team wasn't the focus.
Right.
The villain is Paul, and Paul is the focus. And any of the other things that happen in the game, including Team Galactic, are really afterthoughts in this sort of let's set up this Ash versus Paul philosophy dichotomy, which at the end of the season, they just say it's not even a dichotomy. It is just Paul is terrible. And that really does a disservice to what they were trying to do at the start. Because it was an interesting thing to be like, these two trainers care about their Pokemon and train them in two different ways. And that is an interesting take when you have somebody who is as severe as Paul, and then they don't. And so other things pay the price for that, and one of them is being Team Galactic and the storyline of the games.
See, in the last season for the Advanced Generation arc, we got Team Aqua and Team Magma, which is our first new team after Team Rocket, as villains from the games. And I felt like those were executed so blandly by the time we actually concluded it. I kind of appreciate the focus here on a rival instead, at least to start.
That's fair. And I think most of the villain teams kind of take a backseat throughout their respective seasons. Like Team Flare, for instance, isn't even a thing until the third season of Kalos.
Right.
Aether Foundation is weird about their stuff, as is what's Guzma's team, whatever it is. I can't remember right now.
Skull,
yeah.
Team Skull. Yeah,
but Team Skull is pretty present in the first season of Alola.
I mean, to be fair, nothing happens with Team Flare until the last third of that game.
Yeah.
Oh, so that, yes.
And then I think one of the other things I want to touch on, since we didn't, I know Greg's already commented on this, but going again from the top, what do you guys think about the opening to this season?
Make it
The
stop.
theme song?
Yeah, the theme song.
Oof.
Like, what do we think of that bad rap?
It's
Yeah. If you were to rate it, what would you rate it?
I don't know if it deserves that much consideration. Like, it happened. I feel like we don't need to talk about it anymore. You
That's
know.
fair. It's very early 2000s.
So if you go to the band or the artist that made that opening and you go to his website, it's actually on there as well for you to play. So
Is
Heck
this
yeah.
is
Fire
this his
it up.
most accoaccomplished work?
I don't
Is this
know.
his
There's
peak?
some other stuff.
Oh man.
I mean, how many people do you know that got to make an anime theme song? I would put it on there. I don't care.
Money's money.
So I guess I
Um,
never knew it was supposed to be rap.
hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was like
mean-
glam metal.
It is bad, but
And then, other than the music, there's a lot of imagery in there that I know Brady actually pointed out was something that was a fun teaser for him, where it looked like there might be a moon ball that appears in the season.
Yeah, having not know about the
Mhm.
seals for the Pokeballs in the contest.
Mm.
Briefly through the, I guess the opening, I thought maybe Dawn had a moon ball, but then I was like, wait, Piplup was in a similar ball too, and that's normally in a regular Pokeball, so I was really confused.
And yeah, and that kind of using that as an example, are there like things from the opening that you maybe tease some of the things that happened here that stood out to you at all or surprised you in how we actually got there? It's a pretty it's like it's a weirdly paced opening, I'll say. Like the part that kind of jars me about it is it looks like Apom is using Swift at us, and it's almost like Paul is the one using Apom. So as a kid, I was like, well, they're both purple. Does like Apom defect and go to Paul? But that very clearly was not the case. So I don't know why it's positioned like that in the opening. Brady pointed out with the capsules and the moon ball. Did anyone else like who is not familiar with ball capsules think anything about that?
no, I watched it once, heard the theme song, went, "Oh, that's right. I never have to do this again." and went on past it.
Man, I made some poor choices then because
Say
I maybe the second or third
because
time
I can recite the whole thing
was-
now.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
same.
And clearly one of us did this season right, and it wasn't me.
Right?
For me,
Yeah.
Lucario looking towards
Yeah,
Dialga
okay.
and Palkia, that always stands out
Oh,
to me.
yeah.
It's like I just
Thing
love the
that
imagery of
same.
that.
It,
Yeah,
it's
to me,
yeah, it's distinct, but I'm like, why? What? Like the cardio isn't even in this season.
Also, one thing I want to point out: Tracy gets more screen time in the opening than he does in the actual show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a fun one.
Professor Oak is in there, and we see him a surprising amount, though fairly forgettable, I'd say, amount of screen time here.
Apparently, Dawn's idol.
Yeah, as the poem professor. And I think those are two characters that maybe are kind of underrated in terms of what they do here and what impact they have. Well, one more than the other for sure. Johanna, Dawn's mom, and Professor Oak. Are there any thoughts about these two who don't make a ton of appearances, but I think are impactful in smaller ways?
No, I agree. I mean, their presence is felt, especially Joanna. It's just I don't know if there's much to add about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she's kind of like letting Dawn do her thing,
Mhm.
as opposed to like always kind of like checking up on her.
Yeah, you're 10 years
I feel
old. You're a
like-
big kid now. Get out there and explore
Yeah,
the
I
world.
feel like
Become the best coordinator ever, better than me.
yeah.
I do
But
like
I will say always that she looks super young every time she's shown on the screen.
I do like that her appearance matches that of the games. That I like to me this is the most iconic figure that you have in the games that you see and you actually can battle against and compete against in Pokemon contests, which I thought was really cool. And the nice use of her rather than like I'll be at home forever and do nothing else. Because in the games, when you get to Heart Home City and unlock Pokemon contests, she actually shows up and gives you your outfit for the contest, which is like, oh hey, mom's like traveling and doing stuff. She has her own life. That's good for her.
She was so happy the day Dawn left and her real life could begin. 10 years of raising that kid. I'm out.
And now for the last portion here of the episode, we're actually going to get a chance for you guys to ask each other questions. So as we go down the line, kind of be popcorn style. So if someone's been asked, you can't ask them again until we go for another round. So if you are asked a question, you will ask someone else a question in turn following that. So, Carina, do you want to go ahead and ask the first question and choose who you're directing it to?
Sure. Yeah. I'm gonna ask Greg just because he is the only one who I haven't done an episode with. So, Greg, which Pokemon that is like a team member of one of our protagonists is your favorite? And that can also include the process by which they joined the team. And why is it Piplup?
I mean, it is Piplup. Because Piplup is the best character in the series. And also, you still my question, which was, why is Piplup the best developed character in this entire series?
I'm so glad we're on the same page.
I mean, Piplup does more interesting things and has more personality from day one than anybody, more than Jesse, more than James. They have been here from the beginning, and Piplup has more depth. I love Piplup. Piplup's the best part of Diamond and Pearl.
Agreed.
Oh, now I have to. Now my question was taken. I have to come up with another one. Let's Brady. If you had to choose between gyms and contests, which would you choose and why?
Ooh. I think I would rather do gym battles. Just because it's more my style of, I guess, from Pokemon games. It's more what I'm used to. But I think if I were in a crowd, I would like to watch the contests more.
Mm.
So I feel like I wouldn't be as creative in the contest. So I'd leave that to people who could be, but I would enjoy them.
Greg, any thoughts on that answer? Surprising you at all?
No, it's valid. It's all valid. The real answer
cool.
was you do both like Nando because Nando's the best.
Oh, dang it!
So,
Set me up.
Get wrecked.
Can't be as good as Nando though, or Nacho.
No, nobody's good as Nando. Nando and Piplup would be an unstoppable spin-off series.
Like a
Even
buddy
better
comedy.
than
Wait, but how
Roselia
does
and
Piplup
Nando?
get with Nando? I feel like that's a whole series on itself. Of
Oh,
like
yeah, I
how,
mean-
how Nando kidnaps Piplup and takes him to
No,
experience a life
Nando's
that is
innocent.
much better.
Nando's already said
Piplup-
he's innocent.
Piplup realizes that Dawn is a dead end.
Dang.
I mean, Piplup's smarter, faster, more clever than Dawn. Realizes I can upgrade in this world. Bye. I'm gonna go with Nando.
Brady, what is your question?
Let's see. Mannie. Does Paul have any redeeming factors to him at the end of this season? And or could he in the future redeem himself for what happened in the last three?
Towards the end of the season, definitely not. Kind of left with the fact not only did he abandon Chimchar as a trainer, but during the battle as well, while Chimchar was waiting for him to, tell him to give him an attack, you just see him pretty much just ignore Chimchar. So towards the end of the season, definitely there's nothing redeemable about him. Towards the next 2 seasons, I hope there is. My hopes aren't really high though. So yeah, I definitely hope so, but I have a feeling there probably won't be anything redeemable towards the end of all 3 seasons.
Interesting. So you think he's going to finish off the series as a rival slash not good person versus like a rival slash friendly competition?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, definitely fair.
Yeah, there's just if there was a hint, it wasn't as obvious. If there is gonna be something between him and Ash, in terms of at least finding a truce. So yeah, I definitely don't feel like there's gonna be anything redeemable. Okay, is there an episode you feel definitely could have been left out this entire season?
Oh
Wouldn't
man,
have changed?
you stole my
Ah!
second question. My backup question. I don't know about full on episode. I think I've made clear what specific like moment could totally be left out, and that's Paul in the maze. I think we've kind of beat to death the Suicune episode. Trying to think what else could have been left out. Checking the list here. I want to say youth episode.
I mean, I agree that the Bidoof did like nothing for the series, but there are so many Bidoofs in it.
It is fair enough. It is the only episode that
How
really
are we-
features Bidoof.
How are
But-
we not coming up with the ship episode? The ship,
Right?
I
how?
like the ship episode. I'm sorry.
I like it too. It's a
I
guilty
also like
pleasure.
it.
It is a guilty pleasure. Okay. Mine would be was there a Pokemon or character that you know, it doesn't have to be from Sinnoh. Preferably one that exists in the games, or characters. That you were hoping to see this season, but it didn't get featured, or it just didn't have enough screen time. Like maybe it was there, but in the background or something.
And that was my backup question.
There's only so much we can
Ooh.
ask about this season.
Yeah, I would say the honey tree Pokemon or something that I wish we could spend more time on, because there's a lot of really cool ones in there that, at least as a kid, was like the first time I could actually capture these at a reasonable point in the game, like Heracross, Munchlax, Apom, the Burmy line, and we saw a bit of that, but I think especially just like Munchlax, like it's so weird to me that it got featured more in Battle Frontier than it does throughout all of Sinnoh, which is its home region. But I think it's I just want to see it like do more things, which would be awesome.
That's fair. Yeah. Mine was the staple electric Pokemon of Sinnoh, Shinx.
Okay, yeah.
We didn't get much of it at all, which was very surprising because it's such an early encounter in the games.
Right.
And it's like on everyone's Sinnoh team.
Like the question I asked Mannie about the Electric episode is, why the heck was it not Shinx or Luxio? Like,
Yeah.
why are we featuring this Gen 3 Pokemon here? It's just so odd to me. What
Yes.
Pokemon that we've seen so far would you want to have on your team for Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl as you play through the game?
That we've seen so far. I mean, the obvious answer is that I'm going to have an
Well,
Empoleon on
okay,
my team eventually.
Besides that, besides the starters,
You walked into that one.
We all knew where that was
look,
going.
I thought that was implied. Okay.
There are 3 starters. I think that's a fine answer.
That was the
Now-
first question of the first episode. Okay, we've tried this ground before, but yeah, it's specifically one that's on our heroes' teams that isn't one of the Sinnoh starters.
Okay, a Pokemon that's on the team that isn't a starter that I think I am going to have on my team. I'm going to say Pachirisu.
Okay.
Oh, that shiny is so good.
Why Pachirisu?
Cause it's like really cute and I like that. And also I like always have an electric type on my team and I didn't have one last time I played through Diamond and Pearl. So I could see having a good old Pachirisu carrying me to the Elite Four.
I would love to see how that goes. I'm very interested in how the mechanics develop for that.
Thanks, I'll report back.
Cool. Did you have a question for someone else that you wanted to ask? Or maybe just one in general to the group?
Yeah, are
we've
we
done the
doing like
first
a
round.
whole other round or is this gonna be the last question?
This will be the last one because it sounds like you guys are.
play.
Yeah, you guys were running dry apparently on questions. So yeah, just I guess I'll open it up then to everyone. Are there any like topics or things that we didn't cover a bunch? I know Carina, JM, and I have talked in depth about Paul. So were there any lingering thoughts about that for anyone else who was not there? So Mannie, Brady, and Greg.
I mean, I think I made it pretty clear that they not only did they make Paul the villain, right? Like his reasons for doing it are I saw Chimchar get super powerful through emotional trauma and I'm going to inflict emotional trauma again. What makes that whole situation worse is that nobody at that table or in that center really pushes back on that or really calls that out as horrific. They're like, that's a bad philosophy. You should treat them like friends. And it really takes the core premise of your Pokemon are your partners and they're working with you and makes that a side note, because when somebody is that abusive, they don't stop it until it's so apparent and so blatant and it happens in a public setting. And only after Paul basically rejects this creature he's been abusing, it is such a horrific betrayal of what the series is, and the fact that they sit in that Pokemon Center, he sits across from Brock, who's a gym leader, explains that entire thing, and Brock is just like, that's not the right way to go about things. It is infuriating to me. And they do it with Paul, who you already hate, and it becomes his neglect and their support of that neglect suggests that there's an entire segment of the population that is like this, and they all just turn a blind eye to it. And when it's happening in front of them, they don't even act. And that is an unforgivable turn in this episode. It is such a horrific thing to have done, and they do it unapologetically. And they do it as a learning thing, or now that Chimchar is with Ash, life will be much better. And they never undo the damage that they did in that one scene.
I think you bring up a really good point. Throughout this season, I remember them saying at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 times that the Pokemon have more personalities than there are Pokemon. So no 2 Pokemon are the same thing. Just because they're the same species and so forth. And I feel like they really tried to show a sentience to these Pokemon, show that they have some sort of humanism like characteristics to them. They're not just animals, like you
like
know.
Piplup's whole thing. Like
Yeah,
you love
Piplup
Piplup because
pose.
he's got so much personality, and he's,
and so I feel like they really set you up to stop viewing Pokemon as creatures and pets or just animals in the world and start seeing them as more of like other sentient beings that live in the world and partner with the people. But then you go back to how you said a lot of people in the Pokemon world probably view Pokemon the same way that Paul does, and that's why he got away with that kind of the with treating his Pokemon that way. And it's really just sad. But I think that also shows that maybe what they're trying to do with Ash and his team is he may not be the smartest or the best battler, but he actually like cares and develops that relationship, and that's what makes people a good trainer, not knowing what moves to use and when and leveling up Pokemon. It's more about that bond that you have that Paul seemingly won't get.
But they still let Paul win.
That's
Yeah.
true.
The one thing that I think we could bring up from that Electric episode is how the trainer's relationship works with this Pokemon that he's training as a Pokemon breeder. Do you think there's a parallel between that and how Paul treats his Pokemon?
Definitely not. That certain trainer was being a jerk because he was used to being a flying type breeder in terms of a breeder in general. He kind of felt like it was pointless to train with a Pokemon that he didn't know anything about. But we see later on that he kind of changes his way of thinking when he sees Brock and the way that he treats Pokemon, and he tries to build that bond with that Electrike. Where in terms of Paul, it's just like he feels like oh well, this is what Chimchar wants. Chimchar wants to become strong, so I'm gonna put him through as much trauma as I possibly can. And I feel like Ash is a character. We know that he loves Pokemon, and especially when it comes to his Pokemon, he'll do anything for them, and even for Pokemon that aren't his. So I think it kind of bugs me that all he does is just scowl at Paul and not really like bring him down to earth or kind of humble him. And I know that this is a kids show, but I feel like there's definitely a lesson to be taught about how there are people that mistreat animals and such, because Pokemon in this world, Pokemon are animals, and I feel like they should have kind of capitalized on how bad Paul as a character is treating his Pokemon that are supposed to be his partners, and he just treats them like just minions, and especially with this Chimchar, because we see that it's being attacked by 3 Pokemon at once. Like that's what he considers training for his Chimchar, and I think that's definitely the point where you feel like, yeah, this character has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. So yeah, I kind of wish that Ash would do more than just like, oh, that's awful. I feel like Ash needs to like stand up, Paul, and kind of knock some sense into him. Physically as well, just a small punch.
Yeah.
At least
Or call
kind of,
Officer Jenny?
yeah, and yeah, because it would make me wonder, like in the lore of Pokemon, because they have Pokemon licenses, would that be considered a crime? Do you think you can report a trainer and have them get their license revoked and such? I feel like it's probably not gonna get better in terms of Paul as a character. Like he's probably, because we see that he doesn't want weak Pokemon. He wants the strongest Pokemon he can possibly find, and if they don't satisfy his needs, he just abandons them, and that's definitely awful. And it's definitely one of the qualities as to why Paul as a character is just nobody can stand that character.
Can I bring things full circle and change my answer to the very first question of what surprised me? What surprised me was that Ash and Paul won. Like, I was so ready for their
Yes.
partnership to just dissolve, because the whole point
Mhm.
was like, you have to work together, and they weren't, and they still
They won
won.
in spite of that.
So that's my answer to the very first
Yeah,
question
and-
of this episode.
They were trying to show that Ash could carry it all on his own, and Ash came in and saved the day and snagged out the win. But
Doesn't work.
it
Falls
doesn't
flat.
like it just. Ugh.
I do want to add real quickly. I know we've talked about this a lot, about Paul a lot, but going back to what Greg and Manny said about how Ash never steps in, The most surprising instance in the Pokemon anime for me that ever happened was in Kalos, a random filler episode. Ash loses it on Team Rocket, like screams at them, gets completely enraged because they're harassing a Zapdos. I want to see him do that with Paul. And
Yeah.
he's just so passive with Paul to the point where he even told Chimchar to just ignore Paul. Like,
Yeah.
no, get mad at Paul. Get upset because he goes against everything you stand for as a trainer. And if you can yell at Team Rocket for like yelling at a Zapdos, you can get upset with Paul for abusing a Chimchar.
Yeah. I feel like if Ash can try to punch a Mewtwo, shouldn't have any problem punching a kid his age.
So to kind of end this on a more positive note, we did get the release of a new game today, actually, at the time of this recording. I wanted to see if people had an idea of who you wanted to main in Pokemon Unite.
I personally am still trying out all the other characters just to see which one fit better for me. I've used Zeraora, Gibble, and Slowbro so far. As of now, I think Gibble probably my go-to, but I still haven't gone through the rest. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Nice. Okay.
I think I've tried all of the characters. I literally played this game all day today, and I'm still so bad at it. But I think I've tried all of the characters that are available, and I'm pretty sure I'm equally bad at all of them. So I don't really know which one I'm gonna go for. But I guess we'll see as I plan to be a free-to-play player. So as I rack up the coins to be able to unlock more Pokemon, we'll see if that situation changes. I honestly don't think it will, but I'm having fun. And sorry to any randos who get put with me for the fair review.
Oh no. I've played a few matches. I think Zero Aura seems really strong right now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's definitely debatable. From when I played it, it seemed like people just couldn't touch me, and I was just tearing through them. But that also could have been due to like the snowball effect of MOBAs. I'm not sure if I was like super leveled compared to the other team when I noticed that I was just wrecking with Zero Aura. I tried. Let's see. I tried Gibble and the Garchomp line. I thought that one was okay. It wasn't my favorite. The last match I played was with Bulbasaur, and I really liked that. I like being able to use Sludge Bomb and place it on the map in different locations and let it sit there. It was pretty fun. So as for main, I don't know. That's tough. There's so many good characters. Pikachu seems really strong too. I don't know.
For me,
I want to play some more Bulbasaur.
yeah, I really have loved Bulbasaur so far. Slowbro's been kind of okay as well. I do want to see how the supports play out a bit, like Mr. Mime. And when I get to Lucario, which I'm getting close to in coins for, I really want to see how that feels in terms of playstyle. And I know Greg's been playing some supports.
Yeah, so I am flipping between so I did Eldegoss all day today, and I really like that how that support style plays. I switched over now that I got Alolan Ninetales for free. And I'm starting to use that as my other support one, and they play very differently. I am leaning more towards Alolan Ninetales right now because I like that it does a little bit more damage, but the support isn't as strong.
Mm-hmm.
But like, they're both very, very good.
Nice. JM, did you get a chance to play?
Yeah, I've only played one real match since the tutorial, and I just tried Talonflame on a whim. And when I was selecting it, it said you should try jungling. I'm like, okay, I will do that. And I had a ton of fun jungling with Talonflame. I was able to basically initiate the snowball effect for my team
Mhm.
And then I was just putting a lot of pressure on the other side. I think it was a Charizard and a Pikachu that they had up front, and I only died once against them, and they were like constantly tag teaming me. So I don't know. I had a lot of fun with Talonflame. I do want to try some others, but I think that's a good starting point at least.
Cool. Yeah, there's a lot to explore there for sure. So I'm very interested in how people's opinions change as we continue to play. But that wraps up this season finale. Brady, Greg, JM, Mannie, Carina, thank you so much for being here with me. I think it's awesome, and I'm so happy that I got to hear you guys all discuss your thoughts together, especially.
Thank you for organizing this and having us on.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having
thank
us
you.
throughout the season.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I did not expect this to go as far as it did, and I think it we'll probably talk more about this afterwards. But there's a lot going forward that we can do as well. And one thing that listeners can look forward to is a special episode that I'm still in the works of organizing, featuring the Darkrai movie, which is the first movie that comes out of this Diamond and Pearl era.
Spoiler, Darkrai has legs.
It's really creepy.
I was gonna ask, was that the one that we watched with Jake?
Yes.
Oh, you guys okay,
gosh.
cool.
Darkrai.
It's so
Uh,
bad.
Well, we know Brady's opinion on it, but if you're curious to hear maybe more in-depth discussion, feel free to tune into that. And as always, feel free to subscribe, like the video if you enjoy it. And by this point in time, you get to listen to our thoughts on the entire season, so go ahead and check that out. And yeah, if we have any updates for you, feel free to check here or on Twitter. And I'll link all of the socials to these wonderful people down below as well. But yeah, this has been great. I think by this time that you're listening to this, Burn Diamond Shining Pearl might be out. So hopefully you're enjoying it. So yeah, once again, thanks for everyone who's listened. And if you have any thoughts about the season, any questions or things that we didn't cover, feel free to comment down below because we'll go ahead and check those out and maybe get back to you on that. But until next time, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys and having everyone listen. And we'll see you in Sinnoh. Bye.
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 Bye.